What would you do if you discovered that the company you built with your values and vision had developed a culture you no longer recognized? This is the story of Logan Carter, a CEO who took an extraordinary step to uncover the truth about his organization. Disguised as a receptionist, Logan left his corner office and stepped into the daily grind of his employees, determined to see his company through their eyes. What he found was both shocking and inspiring. A workplace marred by toxic leadership and neglect, but also brimming with untapped talent and resilience. Through this journey, Logan faced hard truths, uncovered sabotage, and found the courage to transform his company from within. This gripping tale isn't just about fixing a broken system. It's a powerful reminder of the importance of leadership, accountability, and the people who form the heart of every organization. Bookmark. Before we dive into this gripping tale of leadership, transformation, and uncovering hidden truths, comment below where you're watching from today. And if you enjoy this inspiring story, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss more amazing tales like this one. Logan Carter sat in his spacious corner office, the room adorned with plaques, awards, and sleek furniture. The panoramic view of the city skyline, a source of pride that usually fueled his ambitions, felt strangely empty today. Spread out on his polished oak desk was a report that made his brow furrow in concern. An employee satisfaction survey revealing an alarming 15% drop over the past 3 months in one of their Virginia offices. Complaints had piled up. Accusations of favoritism, reports of a toxic culture, and even murmurs of potential racial bias. As the CEO of Innovate Solutions, Logan had always prided himself on building an organization that valued its employees. Yet here he was, blindsided by the stark reality staring back at him. Something had gone terribly wrong, and he hadn't seen it coming. This isn't just a statistical anomaly, Logan muttered to himself. This is a call to action. The more he pondered, the more the words of his mentor rang in his ears. To lead effectively, you must understand the ground you walk on. Logan knew that he had to see this crisis from a perspective other than his executive perch. Logan made a bold decision, a choice that was both risky and unconventional. He would disguise himself as a receptionist at the Virginia office. If he could blend into the daily operations of his company, he might uncover the real issues affecting morale and productivity. The move wasn't without its risks. If word got out, it could damage his credibility or even lead to a public relations nightmare. But Logan's resolve only strengthened as he stared at the stack of complaints. This isn't about saving face. This is about saving my company, Logan thought. The transformation was almost theatrical. Logan traded his tailored suits for a standard-issue uniform, swapped his polished leather loafers for scuffed black shoes, and added a pair of glasses and a slightly ridiculous fake mustache. Looking at his reflection, he barely recognized himself. Gone was the polished CEO. In his place stood a nondescript middle-aged man ready to tackle an entirely different role. When Logan arrived at the Virginia office that Monday morning, he felt an unexpected mixture of anticipation and dread. The bustling energy of the office seemed worlds away from the quiet of his executive suite. Walking past the glass doors, Logan noticed how no one spared him a second glance. So this is what it feels like to be invisible in your own company, he thought. Logan was introduced as Chris, the new temp receptionist. Armed with a phone directory and a list of tasks, he was thrust into the busy hub of the front desk. Calls came in rapid succession, visitors streamed through, and the sheer pace was dizzying. As Logan fumbled with the switchboard and greeted visitors, he noticed 2 senior managers standing nearby, locked in conversation. "Did you see the latest email about those new efficiency measures?" one asked. "Yeah," the other replied with a smirk. "Just what we needed, more work for less pay. The customer service team's already stretched thin. Let HR deal with their whining. We've got better things to do." The casual indifference in their tone hit Logan like a gut punch. Were these managers the kind of leaders he had trusted to uphold the company's values? Throughout his first day, Logan struggled with the tasks he had always taken for granted. The phone system seemed to have a mind of its own, and the constant stream of visitors left him scrambling. But what weighed heavier than the physical demands of the job was the emotional toll of what he overheard and observed. In the break room, Logan found himself listening to yet another troubling conversation. A group of middle managers sat at a table, their voices laced with frustration. "Can you believe the complaints from the customer service team?" one sneered. "Honestly, it's not like their job is rocket science. If they can't handle it, maybe they're in the wrong industry." The others laughed, the sound grating against Logan's ears. Logan couldn't shake the feeling of shame and anger that settled in his chest. The people he had entrusted with his vision, the managers who were supposed to lead with integrity, were dismissing the concerns of the employees who kept the company running. As the day came to a close, Logan met Doris, a senior receptionist who had been with the company for over 2 decades. She patiently showed him the ropes, her demeanor calm and reassuring. "It's just a job," Doris said during a brief lull in the day. "But don't expect anyone up there to notice us. To them, we're invisible." Her words lingered long after Logan had finished his shift. Looking at himself in the restroom mirror, wearing his temp uniform, he felt the weight of the day settles heavily on his shoulders. Logan had always believed Innovate Solutions was a place where every employee felt valued. But today, he'd seen the cracks beneath the surface. The numbers on the report weren't just statistics. They were a reflection of a culture that had quietly drifted away from the principles he'd worked so hard to instill. "This is just the beginning," Logan whispered to himself as he left the building. "Tomorrow, I'll dig deeper." The next morning, Logan Carter arrived at the Virginia office ready to embrace his temporary role with renewed determination. He wore the same nondescript uniform and adjusted his fake mustache before stepping inside. As he took his place behind the front desk, the bustling office seemed just as chaotic as the day before. He couldn't shake the feeling of discomfort. Despite being the CEO here, in this disguise, he was just Chris, the temp receptionist, a role that seemed to render him invisible. Yet that was precisely what he needed to uncover the truth. Bookmark. The phone rang incessantly. Visitors came and went, and the lobby seemed to operate at a relentless pace. Logan tried to keep up, juggling tasks while observing the interactions around him. That morning, he overheard 2 senior employees having a heated discussion near the reception area. "We need to cut the budget somewhere," one of them said sharply. "Customer service is the logical choice. They're always complaining anyway." The other nodded in agreement. "It's not like they're the face of the company. The clients care about us, the people making decisions, not the ones answering calls." Logan clenched his fists under the desk, a wave of anger washing over him. These were not the values Innovate Solutions was meant to embody. The dismissive tone and disregard for the well-being of the employees were everything he had feared. Logan's day took an unexpected turn when Linda Marshall, the manager in charge of this branch, appeared. She was a name Logan recognized well. Her efficiency and direct approach were often praised in board meetings. Today, however, she radiated an entirely different energy. Linda strode toward the reception desk, her sharp heels clicking against the polished floor. She surveyed the desk with a disapproving glance before her gaze landed on Logan. "Is this seriously how you're handling things?" she snapped. "Papers everywhere, phones ringing unanswered. It's no wonder this place is falling apart. You people can't even manage the basics." The words cut deeper than Logan expected. "You people." The phrase echoed in his mind, laden with disdain. "I'll do better," Logan mumbled, keeping his voice steady despite the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Linda scoffed before turning away, her body language exuding contempt. Nearby, Henry, an IT specialist, caught Logan's eye and gave him a sympathetic shrug. "Don't take it personally," Henry whispered when Linda was out of earshot. "That's just how she is. Everyone knows to steer clear of her." The comment left Logan deeply unsettled. Not only was Linda's behavior unacceptable, but it seemed to be a well-known fact among the staff. How had such toxicity gone unnoticed, or worse, unchecked, for so long? The more Logan observed, the more troubling patterns emerged. Linda seemed to thrive on belittling her subordinates, her words laced with condescension and criticism. Yet, whenever a higher-ranking executive visited the office, she transformed into the picture of professionalism. It was a stark reminder of how appearances could be deceiving. Linda had mastered the art of managing upward. impressing the leadership team while fostering a toxic culture among those she deemed beneath her. Logan couldn't help but feel a pang of betrayal. He had trusted her, relied on the glowing reports from her supervisors, and considered her a valuable asset to the company. Now he saw her for what she truly was, a symbol of everything that had gone wrong under his watch. During his lunch break, Logan joined Doris in the staff kitchen. She poured herself a cup of coffee, her movements slow and deliberate, as though she carried the weight of years of unacknowledged effort. "How's your second day treating you?" Doris asked, her tone light but her eyes curious. "It's an adjustment," Logan replied, carefully choosing his words. Doris smirked knowingly. "Yeah, this place will do that to you. You learn to just put your head down and get through the day. Complaining doesn't get you far around here." The comment stung more than Logan expected. He had always envisioned Innovate Solutions as a company where every voice mattered and where employees felt empowered to speak up. Yet here was Doris, a veteran of the organization, resigned to a culture of silence. "What about management?" Logan asked cautiously. "Don't they listen?" Doris let out a dry laugh. "Management? They're in their own bubble. They don't see us, let alone listen to us. To them, we're just background noise." Her words lingered long after their conversation ended. Logan couldn't help but wonder how many other employees felt the same way. Overlooked, undervalued, and invisible. As the day progressed, Logan's perspective continued to shift. From his vantage point at the reception desk, he observed the subtle dynamics that shaped the office environment. He noticed that some employees avoided eye contact with Linda, and their shoulders tense whenever she entered the room. Others whispered quietly among themselves, their conversations halting abruptly whenever a manager approached. It was an atmosphere of fear and mistrust, a stark contrast to the collaborative culture Logan had envisioned when he founded the company. One particular moment stood out to Logan. A junior employee dropped a stack of papers near the elevator, scattering them across the floor. Linda happened to be walking by, and instead of helping, she stopped, crossed her arms, and barked, "Clean this mess up, now." The employee stammered an apology, hastily gathering the papers, while Linda walked away without a second glance. Logan felt a surge of anger but held his tongue. It wasn't the time to reveal himself, not yet. By the end of the day, Logan was physically drained from the demands of the job, but it was the emotional toll that weighed heaviest on him. He had come here to understand the challenges facing his company, and what he had discovered so far was worse than he had imagined. As he removed his uniform and looked at his reflection in the restroom mirror, Logan saw a man transformed, not just in appearance, but in perspective. The polished, confident CEO was gone. In his place was someone who had begun to grasp the depth of the issues plaguing his organization. Logan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the days ahead. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Not by a long shot." The third day of Logan Carter's undercover journey brought him face to face with the deeper undercurrents of dysfunction in his Virginia office. Determined to push through his growing discomfort, Logan arrived early, settling into the reception desk before most employees streamed in. Today, he planned to observe more closely, particularly the behaviors of key personnel. From the corner of his eye, Logan spotted Linda Marshall marching through the lobby, her expression set in a permanent scowl. Logan braced himself as she approached, her heels clicking sharply against the tiled floor. "Chris," Linda barked, glancing at the disorganized stack of mail on the reception desk. "This is unacceptable. How hard can it be to keep things in order?" Logan maintained a calm demeanor. "I'll fix it right away, Miss Marshall," he replied. Her sharp gaze lingered for a moment before she spun on her heel and walked away, muttering something under her breath. Logan clenched his fists under the desk, biting back the urge to respond. Throughout the morning, Logan noticed a troubling pattern in Linda's interactions. She was courteous and professional with upper management or visiting clients, and her smile was practiced and polished. But with junior employees, her tone was clipped, dismissive, and often condescending. By mid-morning, Linda's target shifted to a young customer service representative named Mia. Logan watched as Linda approached Mia's desk, her voice rising just enough to draw the attention of those nearby. "Mia, this report is riddled with errors. How do you expect us to move forward with this kind of sloppy work? Linda snapped, waving a stack of papers in the air. Mia's cheeks flushed as she stammered an apology, her hands trembling slightly as she took the papers back. I'm sorry, Miss Marshall. I'll fix it right away. See that you do, Linda replied curtly before walking off. Logan's heart sank. He had seen enough to know that Linda's behavior wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a broader issue. Her condescension and belittlement seemed to have permeated the office culture, creating an environment of fear and intimidation. During lunch, Logan found a quiet corner in the staff kitchen, hoping to gather his thoughts. Doris joined him shortly after, her usual knowing smile tempered by a hint of concern. You've had a front row seat to Linda's greatest hits, haven't you? Doris asked, sipping her coffee. Logan raised an eyebrow. It's hard to miss. Doris chuckled softly, though there was no humor in it. She's been like that for years. Nobody stands up to her because she's good at keeping the higher-ups happy. She's untouchable. Does anyone ever report her behavior? Logan asked cautiously. Doris shrugged. A few have tried, but nothing ever changes. People just learn to keep their heads down and stay out of her way. The weight of Doris's words settled heavily on Logan. If Linda's behavior had gone unchecked for so long, how many other employees had suffered in silence? As the day progressed, Logan turned his attention to another key figure in the office, Henry Park, the IT specialist. From the moment Logan had started his undercover role, Henry had stood out, not because of any grand gestures, but because of his quiet dedication and unwavering kindness. Logan watched as Henry moved between desks, solving technical issues with a patience that never seemed to waver. Whether it was a malfunctioning computer or a printer jam, Henry approached every problem with the same calm, methodical demeanor. It wasn't just his technical skills that impressed Logan. It was his ability to connect with people. That afternoon, Logan witnessed a particularly touching moment. A new intern, named Zoe, was struggling to set up her workstation, her frustration evident as she fumbled with the tangled mess of wires. Hey, don't worry, Henry said, crouching beside her. We'll figure this out together. For the next half hour, Henry worked alongside Zoe, guiding her through the setup process and explaining each step in simple, encouraging terms. By the end, Zoe's face lit up with relief and gratitude. Thank you so much, Henry, she said. I was ready to give up. Henry smiled warmly. Anytime, you've got this. Watching the interaction, Logan felt a flicker of hope. Amid the toxicity and dysfunction, there were employees like Henry who embodied the values Logan had envisioned for Innovate Solutions: kindness, dedication, and a genuine desire to help others succeed. Later that afternoon, Logan had another opportunity to observe Angela Price, the senior accountant. Angela's reputation as a diligent worker preceded her, and Logan quickly saw why. She was often the first to arrive in the morning and the last to leave in the evening, her focus unwavering as she pored over financial reports. As the office began to empty out for the day, Logan overheard a brief conversation between Angela and a colleague. Still here, Angela? The colleague asked, pausing by her desk. Angela looked up, offering a tired smile. Just finishing up the quarterly reports. They need to be perfect for tomorrow's board meeting. But it's your daughter's recital tonight, isn't it? The colleague pressed, concern evident in their voice. A shadow passed over Angela's face before she nodded. I'll make it up to her this weekend, she said softly, returning her attention to the spreadsheets in front of her. Logan felt a pang of guilt. Angela's dedication was admirable, but it came at a cost. How many sacrifices like this went unnoticed, unappreciated, or unrewarded? By the end of the day, Logan felt emotionally drained. The stark contrasts he had witnessed, the toxic leadership of Linda versus the quiet heroism of employees like Henry and Angela, painted a picture of a company that had lost its way. As he locked up the reception desk and prepared to leave, Logan couldn't help but reflect on the lessons he had learned so far. This company is filled with incredible talent, Logan thought. But if we don't start recognizing and supporting these people, we're going to lose them and everything they bring to the table. Determined to dig even deeper, Logan resolved to continue his undercover role for as long as it took to uncover the full extent of the issues plaguing Innovate Solutions. This isn't just about fixing a culture, he muttered as he stepped into the cool evening air. It's about rebuilding trust from the ground up. Logan Carter entered the office on his 4th day feeling a renewed sense of purpose. By now, he had grown accustomed to the pace of the reception desk, but the emotional weight of what he had observed lingered. Toxic leadership like Linda's wasn't just damaging to morale, but it was driving a wedge between employees, and the values Innovate Solutions was supposed to uphold. But amid the dysfunction, Logan had also glimpsed something remarkable. Employees like Henry Park and Angela Price, whose quiet determination and dedication stood in stark contrast to the culture around them. These were the kinds of people Logan needed to champion, but he wondered how many others like them were hidden in plain sight. The morning began with the usual hustle and bustle. As Logan greeted visitors and juggled phone calls, he kept an eye on the office floor. His observations became more focused, looking not just at the overt behaviors of the managers, but also at the quieter moments between employees. It didn't take long for another example of Linda Marshall's dismissive behavior to surface. Linda stood near the marketing team's area, speaking to one of her direct reports, Sam. Her voice carried across the room, sharp and critical. "This campaign proposal is completely off target," Linda said, holding up a stack of papers. "Do you even understand what the client wants? Or are you just guessing?" Sam's face turned red as he fumbled for a response. I thought?" Linda cut him off. "Don't think. Just fix it. I don't have time to babysit." Logan could see the tension ripple through the nearby employees, who avoided looking in Linda's direction. Her words weren't just directed at Sam. They cast a shadow over the entire team. As Linda walked away, Logan overheard one employee whisper to another, "She's impossible. It's no wonder no one stays here for long." Logan made a mental note. Linda wasn't just hurting individual employees. Her presence was poisoning the entire office environment. Later that day, Logan focused his attention on Angela Price. From his spot at the reception desk, he watched her move through her tasks with laser-like focus. Despite the pressures of her workload, Angela never complained, her dedication shining through in every action. In the early afternoon, Logan overheard a conversation that revealed even more about Angela's struggles. "I've been passed over for promotion 3 times now," Angela confided to a coworker during a brief break. "I work harder than anyone else in this department, but it doesn't seem to matter. If you're not in the right social circle, you're invisible." Her words stung. Logan had always believed that Innovate Solutions rewarded hard work and talent, but Angela's experience suggested otherwise. The system he had put in place to recognize and support employees had clearly failed her. Meanwhile, Henry Park continued to stand out as a beacon of positivity in the office. That afternoon, Logan watched as Henry helped a struggling employee troubleshoot a complex software issue. Despite the challenge, Henry remained patient and encouraging, explaining each step in detail and ensuring the employee felt empowered to handle similar problems in the future. It wasn't just Henry's technical skills that impressed Logan. It was his ability to uplift those around him. Whether it was a quick joke to lighten the mood or a simple word of encouragement, Henry had a way of making people feel valued. However, Henry's potential was clearly being overlooked. Despite his exceptional interpersonal skills and technical expertise, he remained in a junior role, his contributions unrecognized by the company's leadership. Why hasn't anyone noticed his talent? Logan wondered. How many other employees like Henry are being ignored? As the day wore on, Logan began to connect the dots between the different dynamics he had observed. The toxic culture fostered by managers like Linda created an environment where employees like Angela and Henry were overlooked, their contributions overshadowed by favoritism and poor leadership. One particularly striking moment came late in the afternoon when Logan saw Angela and Henry interact. Angela was struggling with a technical issue in her financial reporting software, her frustration evident. Henry noticed her distress and approached her desk. "Need a hand?" Henry asked with a warm smile. Angela hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I've been trying to fix this for the past hour. It's driving me crazy." Henry quickly diagnosed the problem and walked Angela through the solution step by step. By the time he was done, Angela looked visibly relieved. "Thank you, Henry," she said sincerely. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "It's no problem," Henry replied modestly. We're all in this together, right? Watching the exchange, Logan felt a glimmer of hope. Despite the challenges, there were still employees who embodied the collaborative, supportive culture he had envisioned for Innovate Solutions. As the day came to an end, Logan reflected on what he had learned so far. The problems at Innovate Solutions ran deep, but the solutions were within reach. Employees like Angela and Henry weren't just surviving in a toxic environment, they were thriving in spite of it. With the right support and recognition, they could become the leaders the company desperately needed. But first, Logan knew he had to address the systemic issues that had allowed this culture to take root. Favoritism, toxic leadership, and a lack of transparency were stifling the potential of Innovate Solutions. It was time for a change, one that started at the very top. As he left the office that evening, Logan felt a renewed sense of determination. He had come undercover to understand the challenges facing his company, and now he had a clear mission: to rebuild a culture that valued and empowered every employee. This isn't just about fixing the cracks, Logan thought. It's about building a foundation that will last. By the 5th day of his undercover assignment, Logan Carter was beginning to feel the weight of his dual roles. Balancing the demands of the reception desk with his deepening observations of the office dynamics was exhausting, but it also fueled his determination to address the root issues within Innovate Solutions. As he settled into his post that morning, Logan noticed Linda Marshall standing near the coffee station, speaking to another manager from the Virginia branch, Philip. Their conversation was hushed but laced with tension, drawing Logan's attention. "Look, we don't need to overthink this," Linda said, her tone clipped. "Just stick to the plan and let the others handle the fallout." Philip looked uneasy. "But what about the complaints? They're piling up, and people are starting to talk. HR is under a lot of pressure to address them." Linda waved a dismissive hand. "HR exists to keep people quiet, not stir up drama. If anyone pushes too hard, we remind them how replaceable they are." Logan's stomach churned. Linda's words encapsulated everything wrong with the culture that had taken root in this office, a culture of intimidation, dismissiveness, and neglect. Later that morning, Logan got his most direct confrontation with Linda yet. She approached the reception desk with her usual air of superiority, her eyes scanning the area as if searching for something to criticize. "Chris?" she barked, her voice cutting through the general hum of the office. "This desk is a disaster. Papers everywhere, phones ringing off the hook. Do you even know how to prioritize?" Logan took a steadying breath, forcing himself to remain calm. "I'll get it under control right away, Miss Marshall," he replied evenly. Linda leaned in slightly, her tone dropping to something almost conspiratorial. "You know, in this company, if you can't handle the basics, you don't last long. Just a little advice." She straightened up, giving him a look of smug satisfaction before walking away. Nearby, Henry Park glanced over sympathetically. Once Linda was out of earshot, he approached the desk and offered Logan a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "Don't let her get to you," Henry said quietly. "She thrives on making people feel small." Logan offered a small smile of gratitude, but remained silent. As the day progressed, Logan found himself focusing on the broader patterns that had emerged over the week. Linda wasn't the only manager exhibiting problematic behavior. Several others mirrored her approach, though less overtly. The common thread was a lack of accountability and a disconnect between the leadership team and the employees they were supposed to support. But amid the dysfunction, Logan also began to see the outlines of potential solutions. Employees like Henry and Angela were shining examples of the talent and dedication that existed within Innovate Solutions. The challenge was finding ways to elevate these individuals while addressing the toxic elements of the company's culture. That afternoon, Logan witnessed another moment that solidified his understanding of the issues. Angela Price was presenting a financial report to a small group of managers in the conference room adjacent to the reception area. Through the glass walls, Logan could see Angela's body language, confident but measured, her gestures precise as she walked the group through her findings. However, as the presentation went on, Logan noticed that several managers weren't paying attention. One manager checked their phone repeatedly, while another doodled absent-mindedly on a notepad. Linda, who was also present, appeared disinterested, leaning back in her chair with her arms crossed. When Angela finished her presentation and asked for feedback, the response was lukewarm at best. "Thanks, Angela," Linda said dismissively. "We'll take it under advisement." Angela's expression faltered for a brief moment before she composed herself and nodded. "Of course. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to revise." As Angela left the conference room, Logan could see the frustration etched on her face. She passed by the reception desk, muttering softly to herself, "Why do I even bother?" Later in the day, Logan found Angela in the break room, staring out the window with a cup of coffee in hand. "Rough meeting?" Logan ventured, careful not to reveal his true identity. Angela let out a bitter laugh. "You could say that. It doesn't matter how much effort I put in, it's like I'm invisible to them." "Have you thought about speaking up, asking for more recognition?" Logan asked gently. Angela shook her head. "What's the point? They only listen to people in their inner circle. Hard work doesn't count unless you're one of them." Her words hit Logan like a punch to the gut. He had built Innovate Solutions with the belief that talent and effort would always be rewarded. But somewhere along the way, that principle had been lost. As the office began to wind down for the day, Logan observed Henry helping another employee with a technical issue. His calm, supportive demeanor remained unwavering, even as the employee grew visibly frustrated. "Let's take it step by step," Henry said, his voice steady. "We'll figure this out together." Watching Henry in action, Logan felt a renewed sense of hope. Employees like Henry and Angela were proof that Innovate Solutions still had a strong foundation. It just needed to be reinforced. That evening, as Logan sat in his hotel room reviewing the notes he had compiled throughout the week, he began to piece together a plan. Addressing the issues at Innovate Solutions would require more than just removing toxic leaders like Linda. It would require a complete cultural overhaul. Logan made a list of priorities. 1. Implement a merit-based system for promotions and recognition. 2. Create channels for employees to provide feedback safely and anonymously. 3. Develop leadership training programs to foster empathy and accountability. 4. Elevate employees like Angela and Henry to leadership roles where their talents could shine. The task ahead was daunting, but Logan felt ready to face it head-on. "This isn't just about fixing the company," he thought. "It's about living up to the vision I set out to create." With that thought in mind, Logan prepared himself for the next day, the day he would begin putting his plan into action. Logan Carter returned to the Virginia office with a sharper sense of purpose. Over the past week, he had uncovered layers of dysfunction, observed toxic leadership in action, and identified exceptional employees being overlooked. Yet, as troubling as these revelations were, Logan had a nagging feeling that something deeper was at play. His instincts were validated mid-morning when Linda Marshall stormed into the office, her face pale and her movements unusually frantic. She walked straight to Logan's reception desk, her usual condescension replaced by an air of urgency. "Where's the conference room?" she demanded, her voice low but strained. Logan gestured toward the hallway. "Down the hall, second door on the left," he replied evenly. Linda muttered a distracted thanks before hurrying off, leaving Logan puzzled. Moments later, he saw her meeting with Philip and 2 other senior managers, their hushed conversation animated and tense. Bookmark. Go back. The mystery deepened during Logan's lunch break when he overheard Doris and another receptionist discussing an unusual incident. "Did you hear about the emails?" Doris asked, her voice lowered. The other receptionist nodded. "Yeah, apparently someone's been leaking confidential information to the media. HR is in a frenzy trying to figure out who's behind it." Logan's heart skipped a beat. If sensitive information was being leaked, it could explain some of the recent complaints and the growing unrest among employees. But who would sabotage the company from within? The answer came sooner than Logan expected. That afternoon, Linda approached the reception desk again, her demeanor unusually hesitant. "Chris," she began, her voice lacking its usual sharpness, "I need to speak to Mr. Carter. It's urgent." Logan fought to keep his expression neutral. "I'll pass the message along," he said, knowing full well she wouldn't suspect him of being the man she was looking for. Linda nodded and stepped closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper. There's something going on in this office, something bigger than just employee dissatisfaction. I think someone's trying to sabotage the company." The confession caught Logan off guard. "What makes you say that?" he asked carefully. Linda hesitated, then pulled out her phone, showing Logan an email thread that had been forwarded to her. The messages were riddled with accusations and threats, seemingly from an anonymous sender. "They've been targeting employees, using their personal information against them," Linda explained. "I don't know who it is, but it's creating chaos. People are scared, and it's affecting their work." Logan's mind raced. This wasn't just an internal culture problem. Someone was actively working to destabilize Innovate Solutions from the inside. Later that evening, Logan received an unexpected visitor at his hotel. Oliver Grant, a private investigator and a trusted confidant. Logan had contacted Oliver earlier in the week to quietly look into the issues at the Virginia office, suspecting that there might be more at play than what he could observe firsthand. "I've got news," Oliver said as he entered Logan's room, carrying a briefcase, "and it's not good." Logan gestured for him to sit, his nerves on edge. Oliver opened the briefcase and pulled out a folder filled with documents. "We've traced the recent leaks and sabotage attempts to a former employee, someone who was let go under questionable circumstances last year. This person has been using their knowledge of the company's inner workings to stir up trouble." Logan's jaw tightened. "Who is it?" "Derek Vaughn," Oliver replied. "He was a senior analyst in the Virginia office before his termination. Apparently, he had access to sensitive data, and he's been leveraging it to manipulate employees and discredit the leadership team." Logan remembered Derek vaguely, a sharp, ambitious employee who had left under a cloud of suspicion. But he hadn't realized the extent of Derek's grievances. Oliver continued. "Derek didn't act alone. He's been working with a small group of accomplices, most of them former employees with grudges of their own. They've been targeting current staff, using personal secrets to coerce them into sabotaging projects or spreading misinformation." Logan's mind raced. If Derek and his network were behind the recent chaos, it meant that some of the issues he had observed weren't organic. They were orchestrated. "Do we know how they're getting this information?" Logan asked. Oliver nodded. "It seems Derek still has contacts inside the company, people feeding him updates and access to internal systems. I'm working on identifying them, but it's clear that this goes deep." Logan felt a mix of anger and resolve. While Derek's actions were reprehensible, they had exposed vulnerabilities within Innovate Solutions that needed to be addressed. "What do you recommend?" Logan asked. Oliver leaned back in his chair, his expression serious. "You need to confront this head-on. Root out Derek's contacts within the company, tighten security protocols, and rebuild trust with your employees. This isn't just about stopping Derek, it's about showing your team that you're taking action." The next morning, Logan returned to the office determined to act. He began by pulling Linda aside for a private conversation. "Miss Marshall," Logan said, dropping the pretense of his undercover identity, "we need to talk." Linda's eyes widened as realization dawned. "Mr. Carter, you've been here this whole time?" Logan nodded. "And I've seen enough to know that we have serious problems, not just with the sabotage, but with the culture of this office. I need your cooperation to address both." Linda hesitated, then nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes to fix this, sir." Logan's tone softened slightly. "I hope so, Linda, because the future of this office depends on it." That day, Logan and Oliver worked together to implement immediate changes. They installed new security protocols to prevent further leaks, launched an internal investigation to identify Derek's contacts, and began repairing the broken lines of communication between employees and management. As the pieces of the puzzle came together, Logan realized that the sabotage had revealed not just the cracks in Innovate Solutions, but also the company's resilience. Employees like Henry and Angela were proof that, despite the challenges, the company had a foundation worth rebuilding. This is only the beginning, Logan thought as he prepared for the next steps. But now, we know where to start. Logan Carter's discovery of Derek Vaughn's sabotage plot gave him a clearer understanding of the chaos at Innovate Solutions, but it also deepened his sense of responsibility. The external attacks had exacerbated internal problems, yet the underlying cultural issues were his to fix. Returning to the office, Logan called an emergency meeting with his senior management team and board members. He was no longer Chris, the temp receptionist, but the CEO determined to confront hard truths and implement lasting changes. The boardroom was tense as Logan began speaking. The team, unaware of his undercover work, looked puzzled by his serious tone. "Thank you all for coming on such short notice," Logan said, his gaze sweeping the room. "Over the past week, I've seen this company in a way I never have before. Not from my corner office, but from the ground floor. I went undercover as a receptionist in our Virginia branch, and what I discovered was both alarming and unacceptable." Murmurs filled the room, and a few managers exchanged uneasy glances. Logan continued, "Employee satisfaction has plummeted because of systemic issues we've ignored for too long. Favoritism, a lack of recognition for hard work, and a culture of fear have taken root. Worse, I've identified a pattern of talk leadership that undermines our company values." He turned his gaze to Linda Marshall, whose discomfort was evident. "Linda, your behavior this week was one of the clearest examples of the problem. The way you treat employees is unacceptable, and it stops today." Linda's face flushed, and she stammered, Mr. Carter, I can explain." "This isn't the time for excuses," Logan interrupted firmly. "This is the time for accountability." Logan shifted focus to the larger group. "But this isn't just about one manager. Our systems, our entire culture, have allowed these behaviors to go unchecked, and we failed to recognize and nurture the incredible talent in this company. That's on all of us, myself included." The room fell silent. Some managers looked defensive, while others appeared genuinely reflective. Logan knew this was only the beginning of a challenging process. "To rebuild, we're implementing immediate changes," Logan continued. "Effective today, we'll introduce a merit-based system for promotions and recognition. Employees like Angela Price and Henry Park, who have been overlooked for too long, will finally receive the opportunities they deserve." The announcement sparked a ripple of reactions. Angela and Henry had become central figures in Logan's mind, symbols of what Innovate Solutions should aspire to nurture. Angela was promoted to Senior Financial Director, a role that acknowledged her dedication and expertise. Logan made sure her sacrifices wouldn't go unnoticed any longer. Henry, meanwhile, was elevated to IT team lead, with increased responsibilities and authority. His natural leadership skills and ability to inspire others would now be used to build a stronger, more collaborative IT department. When Logan called both of them into his office to share the news, their reactions mirrored the journey he had witnessed over the past week. "Thank you, Mr. Carter," Angela said, her voice trembling slightly. "I've been waiting for a chance to prove myself, and I won't let you down." Henry's response was simpler, but just as heartfelt. "This means a lot, sir. I just want to help make things better for everyone." But recognizing talent was only part of the solution. Logan also knew he had to address the toxic behavior that had taken root in the company. Linda and several other managers were given clear ultimatums: improve or face serious consequences. In Linda's case, Logan suspended her for 2 weeks and mandated her participation in a leadership development program. She was also required to formally apologize to her team for her actions. "Linda," Logan said during a private meeting, "this is your chance to change. Take it seriously. I believe you're capable of better, but it's up to you to prove it." Beyond personnel changes, Logan introduced structural reforms aimed at fostering transparency and accountability. These included 1. A feedback and reporting system. Anonymized channels were created to allow employees to voice concerns or report misconduct without fear of retaliation. 2. Regular team check-ins. Each department would hold bi-weekly meetings to discuss challenges and recognize achievements, ensuring employees felt heard and valued. 3. Leadership training. All managers were required to complete courses on empathy, communication, and conflict resolution. 4. Recognition programs. New initiatives were launched to celebrate employee achievements, from monthly awards to peer-nominated recognitions. As the first of these changes were implemented, Logan noticed a gradual shift in the office atmosphere. Employees who had once seemed disengaged began to open up during meetings. Managers who had previously been dismissive started showing genuine interest in their teams. One afternoon, Logan witnessed a small but significant moment. Doris, the veteran receptionist who had shown him the ropes during his undercover stint, received a handwritten note from a senior manager thanking her for her years of service. "First time that's ever happened," Doris said with a smile, showing Logan the card. It was a simple gesture, but it reinforced the importance of the cultural shift Logan was striving to achieve. Meanwhile, Oliver Grant's investigation into Derek Vaughn's sabotage efforts continued. By the end of the week, Derek's remaining contacts within the company had been identified and dismissed. With the network dismantled, Logan felt a sense of relief. "We've cleaned house," Oliver said during a debrief. "But the real victory will be making sure this doesn't happen again." Logan nodded. "That's what we're working on. A company that values its people and operates transparently will be harder to undermine." As Logan reflected on the progress being made, he felt a mixture of exhaustion and optimism. The past week had tested him in ways he hadn't anticipated, but it had also reignited his passion for leading Innovate Solutions with integrity. One evening, as he walked through the now bustling office, Logan paused to observe a scene that gave him hope. Angela mentoring a junior accountant, Henry troubleshooting a team issue with his signature patients, and Doris chatting warmly with a group of employees near the front desk. "This is what we're capable of," Logan thought, "and this is just the beginning." As Logan Carter approached the end of his undercover journey, he found himself reflecting deeply on the lessons he had learned. Innovate Solutions had always been his pride, a company he believed stood for fairness, innovation, and respect. But his time on the ground floor had revealed cracks he could no longer ignore. The cultural issues weren't just surface-level problems. They were systemic, affecting how employees interacted, how leaders managed, and ultimately, how the company performed. Yet amid the challenges, Logan had discovered something far more important: the potential for change. Bookmark. With the sabotage addressed and key reforms underway, Logan decided to hold a town hall meeting for the Virginia office. It was time to speak directly to the employees, many of whom had likely been unaware of his undercover presence. The buzz in the room was palpable as employees gathered. Some looked curious, others skeptical. Logan stepped onto the small stage at the front of the room, his expression calm but serious. "Good morning, everyone," he began, his voice steady. "For those who don't know me, I'm Logan Carter, CEO of Innovate Solutions. But over the past week, some of you may have known me by a different name, Chris, the temp receptionist." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I came here undercover," Logan continued, "because I needed to see this office from your perspective. I needed to understand the challenges you face, the culture you work in, and the reality of what Innovate Solutions has become. What I found was eye-opening." Logan paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "This office is filled with incredible talent, people like Angela Price and Henry Park, who exemplify dedication, compassion, and leadership. But I also saw behaviors that go against everything this company stands for. Favoritism, dismissiveness, and a lack of recognition for hard work. That is unacceptable, and it ends now." The room fell silent as Logan outlined the changes already underway: a merit-based promotion system, new feedback channels, and leadership training programs. He emphasized that these reforms were only the beginning of a long-term commitment to rebuilding trust and fostering a positive work environment. Logan also addressed the sabotage directly. "Some of the challenges we've faced recently were the result of deliberate attempts to undermine this company," he said. "We've identified those responsible and taken action to ensure this doesn't happen again. But even without sabotage, we had internal issues that needed fixing. I take full responsibility for that." His admission of accountability was met with a few surprised glances. CEOs rarely admitted fault so openly, but Logan knew it was the only way to rebuild credibility. After the meeting, Logan spent time speaking with employees one-on-one. Some shared their concerns, while others expressed cautious optimism about the changes. One conversation stood out in particular: a young intern named Zoe, who Logan had observed struggling earlier in the week. "Mr. Carter," Zoe began nervously, "I just wanted to say thank you for listening to us. A lot of us were scared to speak up before, but it feels like things are changing." Logan smiled warmly. "Your voice matters, Zoe, and I promise you, we're going to keep making changes until everyone here feels valued and supported." Her face lit up with gratitude, and Logan felt a flicker of hope. Over the following weeks, the changes Logan had implemented began to take root. Employee feedback channels were flooded with suggestions and concerns, which were addressed promptly by the leadership team. Regular check-ins between managers and their teams created opportunities for open dialogue, fostering a sense of collaboration that had been missing for years. Linda Marshall, after completing her suspension and leadership training, returned to the office with a noticeably different demeanor. She made an effort to listen to her team, acknowledge their contributions, and apologize for her past behavior. It was a small step, but an important one. Meanwhile, Angela and Henry thrived in their new roles. Angela's meticulous work on financial reports led to streamlined processes that saved the company time and money, while Henry's leadership transformed the IT department into a more cohesive, supportive team. Logan also made a point of being more visible within the company. He visited different offices regularly, holding informal Q&A sessions with employees and participating in team-building activities. One afternoon, during a visit to the Virginia office, Logan stopped by the break room and found Doris surrounded by a group of younger employees, sharing stories from her years with the company. "Doris," Logan said, joining the group, "I hope you're sharing the secrets to your success." She laughed, her eyes twinkling. "Just telling them to keep their heads up and always do their best. It's all any of us can do." Logan nodded, her words resonating deeply. "Well, you've been an inspiration to all of us. Don't think your efforts have gone unnoticed." As the weeks turned into months, Logan began to see tangible results. Employee satisfaction scores improved steadily, and productivity increased across multiple departments. More importantly, there was a noticeable shift in the company culture. Employees who had once felt invisible now had platforms to share their ideas and receive recognition for their work. Toxic behaviors were addressed swiftly, and a renewed sense of camaraderie took hold. One evening, as Logan sat in his office reviewing the latest reports, he reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The challenges had been immense, but the progress was undeniable. Innovate Solutions was on its way to becoming the company he had always envisioned, a place where every employee felt valued, supported, and empowered to succeed. Looking out at the city skyline, Logan felt a sense of fulfillment he hadn't experienced in years. This experience had tested him as a leader, but it had also reaffirmed his belief in the power of accountability, empathy, and perseverance. "This is just the beginning," Logan thought. "There's still work to be done, but we're heading in the right direction. Together, we can build something truly extraordinary." With that thought, Logan turned off his desk lamp and headed home, ready to face the challenges of tomorrow with renewed determination and hope. Logan Carter's journey from the CEO's chair to the reception desk at Innovate Solutions was more than just an experiment in leadership. It was a profound wake-up call. The experience peeled back layers of dysfunction, exposing a culture that had drifted far from its intended values. Yet, it also revealed the incredible resilience and potential of the employees working behind the scenes. Often unrecognized but essential to the company's success. This story teaches us that leadership isn't about sitting at the top and making decisions in isolation. True leadership requires stepping into the shoes of those you lead, understanding their struggles, and taking meaningful action to address systemic issues. Logan's decision to go undercover not only allowed him to see the cracks in his organization, but also reminded him of the strength and dedication that often go unnoticed. It's a reminder for all of us, whether we lead teams, work within them, or aspire to do so, that every voice matters. Toxic behavior, favoritism, and neglect may fester unnoticed for a time, but they eventually erode trust and morale. On the flip side, nurturing talent, creating opportunities, and fostering an environment of respect and collaboration can rebuild even the most fractured organizations. Logan's journey also underscores a powerful truth. Change starts at the top. By taking accountability, addressing the flaws in his leadership, and implementing reforms, he not only saved his company but set it on a path toward greater integrity, inclusivity, and success. As we reflect on this story, we're reminded of the importance of humility, empathy, and action. Whether in the workplace or in our personal lives, the courage to confront hard truths and the commitment to make things better can lead to transformation. If you found this story inspiring, let us know in the comments below. Type 1 if you thought it was a good story, and type 2 if you thought it was truly amazing. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Have you experienced something similar in your workplace or personal life? Share your stories with us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more powerful and inspiring stories like this one. Join the conversation and let us know what you think about Logan's journey and the lessons he learned. Your voice matters, and we can't wait to hear from you.